Have you ever thought about the invisible rules that run our world? And I don't just mean the obvious stuff like laws or the economy. I'm talking about the deep underlying code that shapes everything from how your phone works to how you see yourself. Well, today we're diving in. We're going to explore that code from the silicon in our machines to the very systems that build our societies and our minds. So here's the big idea for today, and it's a powerful one. Every reality, whether it's digital or social, basically runs on an operating system. And you know what? Just like any piece of software, we can actually dig in, explore its code, see how the pieces work, and figure out what it's all designed to do. We're going to start with a system we all know pretty well, because, well, we built it from the ground up, the computer. And right at its core, you have the memory system. Just picture a gigantic library full of tiny storage boxes. Every single piece of data has its own unique address, so the computer can instantly find exactly what it needs to function. It's this beautiful, logical, perfectly designed system. And all these parts work together perfectly. You've got the CPU, that's the brain. The memory holds all the information. The I/O controls are like it senses, the keyboard, the screen. And the operating system, it's the manager making sure it all runs smoothly. The point is, it's a complete, coherent system we designed to solve problems. We wrote this reality. Okay, so that leads to a really fascinating question. If we can map out a computer's memory so perfectly, what about the memory of something way more complex, like an entire culture? How would you even begin to map out its operating system? Well, it turns out that's the exact question sociologists have been wrestling with for a long, long time. They're basically trying to be systems analysts for humanity, to map the hidden code of culture that makes a society tick. And you can really see their approach here. Just like a computer scientist talks about CPUs and memory, sociologists have their own terms for the core components of culture. They look at schemas, which are kind of like the mental blueprints we use to make sense of the world. They study discourse, the stories and conversations that build our reality. And they analyze habitus, all those deep, unconscious habits we just pick up from being in our environment. It's the same systems thinking, just applied to a much, much messier reality. But here's the twist. There's a huge debate about how to actually do this. On one side, you have the formalists. They use big data, network models, all the computational tools to find patterns. It's all about what you can measure. On the other side, you have the interpretivists. They say, whoa, hold on, and dive deep into meaning, context, trying to understand the why behind it all. And this quote just captures the interpretivist challenge perfectly. It's this idea that if you try to explain culture with just raw data, you find that every explanation you come up with is resting on another layer of meaning, which rests on another layer, and so on. It's cultural turtles all the way down. You can never fully explain meaning with things that don't have meaning themselves. Okay, so we've talked about systems we build, like computers, and systems we try to measure, like culture. But what if there's another kind of system, a system so powerful that it doesn't just describe the world, it actively creates it? And to understand that, we need to head over to some South Indian philosophical traditions. Because in this way of thinking, imagination isn't just about fantasy or making things up. No, it's seen as the central processing unit of creation itself. The key concept is something called bhavana. Now, this is not passive daydreaming. It's described as a really active, focused, powerful, imaginative process, one that can create real, tangible effects in the world. It's the power to literally bring something new into existence, just through the power of the mind. So how on earth does that work? Well, the principle goes like this. When you imagine something with enough focus and intensity, an attribute of your own thinking mind literally latches onto or attaches itself to the thing you're thinking about. Your imagination actually helps construct its reality. Check out this classic story that shows what this means in practice. There's this devout woman, Simantini, and she's worshiping two young boys. But she doesn't just see them as boys. She pours every ounce of her imaginative energy, her bhavana, into seeing them as the god Shivan and his wife Uma. And her imaginative act is so intense, so real, that one of the boys is physically transformed into a girl to match her vision. And let's be really clear here. In this system of thought, this wasn't some kind of metaphor or psychological trick. No, her imagination literally built a new physical reality. That is a wild idea, right? That our internal world has the power to reshape the external one. So, this incredible power to build reality, it's not just some ancient abstract concept. It is happening all around us right now. And one of the most powerful systems for building reality today is what you might call the user interface of our society, identity. The writer Yasha Monik puts it this way. A lot of us have been encouraged to see the world through the ever-present prism of identity. And this prism, it acts like a really powerful operating system. It organizes our social world, tells us who we are, who other people are, and how we're all supposed to interact. Now, the source material we're looking at here argues that this system can have some really different outcomes. On the one hand, yeah, it can give people a powerful sense of clarity, of belonging. But on the other hand, the argument goes that it can also create deep social divisions, push out people who don't fit into neat boxes, and potentially even feed political extremism by making those group lines harder. And here is a really stark example of how this system can rebuild reality. Let's take free speech. The traditional view is that it's this universal good, a critical tool for protecting the powerless. But when you look at it through the identity prism, that exact same principle can be reimagined. It can be seen as just a fig leaf that really only helps the powerful stay powerful. The system itself changes the meaning of the code. So, after all that, where does this leave us? We've journeyed through these completely different operating systems for reality, from the clean code we build, to the messy cultural code we try to measure, to the imaginative code that can create whole new worlds. And all of this brings us to the most important part of the whole equation, you, the user. First, we had the computer. That's the system we built. A world of pure logic, where we know all the rules because, hey, we wrote them. Then we stepped into culture. That's the system we try to measure. Its code is deep, it's layered, it's those turtles all the way down. A system we can explore forever, but maybe never fully map out. And from there, we found imagination as a creative engine through Bhavana. This is the system that actively generates reality, proving that what we hold in our minds can actually show up in the world. And finally, we looked at identity. For many of us, this is the system we live inside right now. It's that powerful social prism that organizes our world and defines our place in it. Because here's the big takeaway. These systems aren't separate. They all overlap, and they all interact inside every single one of us. We're all living with this computational, cultural, imaginative, and social code running at the same time. So the final question really is for you. What code are you running? And maybe more importantly, what are you building with it?